Hi guys, Sandy here. Today I want to talk to you about the generation deemed as the unluckiest of them all. Some will even go as far as saying that they never really stood a chance. We are talking about the first generation ever experts say won't do better or as well as their parents, meaning they are the first generation to see a decline in opportunities, financial status, and overall quality of life. A generation that has endured not one but two major devastating economic events in key times of their development, and yet is mostly seen by its elders as lazy, privileged, and spoiled. And as avocado toast obsessed. Yes, you guessed it. Today we will be talking about millennials, my generation actually, and how they are essentially screwed. But if you stick with me to the end, I will also be sharing a little bit of hope after all the doom and gloom and let you know why not all is lost. What? Which one is it then? Well, what I'm going to do here is share all the facts and let you decide for yourself. You can then share your decision with me by leaving me a comment below letting me know all about it. I would love to hear from you. Also, before we continue, I have to say that this is a generalization of this generation, okay? And that not all people within this age group share the same concerns. I, for once, can't complain even though I did go through very hard times over the years, from the moment I finished college to deciding to become a full-time blogger and YouTuber. And I am sure there are many others who don't relate to the struggles I will be talking about at all. But I can also assure you that it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that unfortunately the majority of the millennials are struggling and are having a really hard time dealing with all the obstacles in their path. So here are the main reasons why millennials are struggling so hard to build a life for themselves, why they are delaying important milestones like getting married, having children, buying a house, things their parents and the generations before them did so much earlier. Most of these reasons are related to what is essentially wage poverty. For starters, wages haven't kept up with inflation over the past 30 years, right? Meaning things get more and more expensive and what they are making doesn't keep up. Also, this is the generation that went to college in staggering numbers because that's what they were told to do. Get a degree and you'll be able to do anything you want. So they did. Except college tuition pretty much skyrocketed, an increase of 7% per year through the 1980s, 1990s, and much of the 2000s, leaving millennials buried in student debt, meaning they started their professional lives already owing thousands. But hey, it's all worth it, right? Because once you get that degree, you get the high-paying job and everything is alright, right? Wrong. Because since everyone has one, a college degree just isn't that valuable anymore. I mean, how often do you see a job ad for a low-paying, low-skilled job asking for a degree? And guess what this does to the millennials who don't have a college degree? Yep, it's just adding to their troubles because high-skilled people are now taking the jobs they could easily do but are now underqualified. So you get overqualified people doing low-skilled jobs and the less skilled workers doing God knows what. So why are millennials getting paid so much less than the previous generations? Well, the most obvious reason for this would be because they joined the job market during a recession, which means they started with lower paying jobs and delayed their career growth, none of which ever really caught up with the progression seen in other generations. But these were actually the lucky ones because in fact, during the 2008 recession, the unemployment rate for millennials ranked as high as 20 to 30%. High rates of joblessness, low wages, and stagnant earning trajectories dogged them for the following decade. A Pew study found that millennials with college degrees and full-time jobs were making as much money in 2018 as Gen Xers were making in 2001. And the ones with lower qualifications were poorer than the Gen Xers or the baby boomers. I mean, how can a generation possibly recover from that? Now, this is the short version of the story because a lot more could be said about millennial wage poverty and lack of opportunities, like how companies now favor hiring independent contractors with no real rights or benefits instead of proper full-time workers, or how millennials joined the job market at a time that the rules of the game were changing, with older generations working for longer than before, meaning the rotation that used to exist just doesn't exist anymore. There are much less job opportunities than there used to be. Let's face it, that one job that lasted a lifetime, that paid the bills and allowed people to start a life and build a family and grow wealth just isn't there anymore. Okay, now let's talk about the housing market and why millennials just can't afford to buy a house, and for some, even renting is off limits. That one is quite easy to answer actually. They can't do it because they don't earn enough money, are riddled with student debt, and there is currently a housing shortage, which in turn skyrockets the housing prices. Let's put it this way. Nowadays, the cost of a first home is roughly 40% higher than what our parents paid. And rent hikes can be even steeper depending on where you live. Rich baby boomers bought the houses and made building new ones impossible, leaving millennials to rent, which, if you think about it, essentially transfers wealth from the young to the old. Overall, millennials had no chance to build the financial cushion older generations have to weather catastrophes or to take care of families, to start businesses, to invest in real estate, or go back to school and try a new professional path. In the 2008 recession, Gen Xers had twice the assets millennials have today. And right now, Gen Xers have 4 times the assets and double the savings of younger adults. Then, cue the pandemic. Millennials now face the second in a lifetime downturn of their short career. The first ruined their lifetime earnings trajectory and blocked them out of the asset market, and the second is draining their paychecks as they enter their peak earning years. Honestly, millennials just can't catch a break. 52% of people under the age of 45 lost a job, have been put on leave, or had their hours and their paychecks reduced during the pandemic, compared to 26% of people over 45. This meant that millennials, along with Gen Zs, were among those whose savings took the biggest hit. Millennials were also the ones more likely to owe more in credit card debt than what actually exists in their savings. And this is particularly devastating when you consider that before the pandemic, millennials were actually the ones who saved more and avoided debt better than older generations because they still carried the lessons they learned from the 2008 recession. All that work was just wasted. And to make matters worse, there is retirement to consider. Millennials pay for Social Security, but are well aware they won't be able to benefit from it when their time comes to retire. They're essentially paying to support retirement for the older generation. Also, 401k plans just aren't as lucrative anymore, with younger people expected to pay more and more into them, only to get less out of them when the time comes. But again, this is for the lucky ones, because for most of the millennials, saving for retirement just isn't an option because they live in a gig economy. They are independent contractors and part-time workers while still paying off that student debt. There is no money left to be put aside for retirement, and how they'll live once they can't work anymore is anyone's guess. Now, before we continue, just a quick reminder to tap that like button if you're enjoying this video, of course. That way YouTube can show it to more and more people and help my channel grow. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, so what do we do? Do we just give up? Do we just stop trying? Because what's the point, right? I am a glass half full kind of girl, right? So here's something to consider. Contrary to what the older generations may believe, millennials are tougher than they think. They have weathered 2 recessions. They don't have any illusions about how hard things get, and that is the exact grit they need to keep on going and turn things around in their favor. They are prepared, skilled, and strong. And we're actually seeing it happen right now with the Great Resignation that is being led by millennials who are quitting their underwhelming jobs and looking for a better work-life balance for themselves. So bring it on. Also, millennials have better priorities. Yeah, that's right, I've said it. Older generations may have nailed it on the financial front, but millennials know it is all about being happy, about mental health, a work-life balance, and just living. Yeah, money is important to be able to support ourselves, but it's not the end game, it's not the goal. The goal is to live a wonderful, fulfilling, abundant life. Millennials know that, and that's half the war won as far as I'm concerned. They're also a lot healthier than the older generations. They take care of their bodies and know how important health is. They work out, eat better food, and are overall much more demanding with the quality of what they put in their bodies. And this also means they have more time, which they really need considering how slow the progression is. But it doesn't really matter because they don't need to rush as much as the previous generations. With the advances we have seen in technology and science and medicine, the younger generations can easily live up to 90 or 100 years old. If we don't destroy the planet first, of course. But even in that regard, millennials and Gen Zs are much more aware of what needs to be done, so the odds aren't that bad. And speaking of technology, millennials are the first generation to have the world at the tip of their fingers. So yeah, proper career paths are disappointing and dead ends, but there's also the internet and all of its potentials. And apps, let's not forget about the apps. You can join freelance websites, you can be a content creator, you can create online courses to teach you all whatever skills you have, you can create an online store and sell whatever you want, you can even get hired online to pet sit or walk dogs if that's what makes you happy. In that regard, you have to admit the possibilities are truly endless, All you need to do is look for them. So what if you can code? So what if NFTs sound like the dumbest thing ever created? There are still plenty of other things you can do to create the life you want for yourself. If I can do it, trust me, so can you. So, after all this, what do you say? Are you Team Doom or Team Hope? Are millennials really that screwed, or is there still hope for us yet? Don't forget to leave me that comment letting me know what you think. Also, before you go, watch this video about the Great Resignation myths and all the things we've been getting wrong about this worldwide movement. That is it for me today, and I'll see you over there. Bye-bye. Wants to build a financial cushion, although through the 1980s, 1990s, and much of the 2000s, telling capitalism and a hustle culture